Good evening. My hand tonight is Ace 8 of Hearts. So in this hand we have two limpers. Um, Limper 1 I have 30 hands on him. Limper 2 I have 97 hands. None of them seem to be overly loose. 30% for this guy out of 30 hands. He's 28% for this player. This player does seem to be very passive. This player seems to be a little bit more aggressive, but it's kind of tough to judge out on 30 hands. He's pre-flop raised 17%, raised first in 22. So a player like this in position, when he comes in for a limp, I don't think he's going to have that big a hand. It's probably something maybe like this. If he's knowledgeable, he's probably raising ace 2, 3, 4, and 5, or suited ace 2 to 5 in this spot. Probably some of these weak pairs. I would think he would raise tens plus. Might be limping with some of these offsuit hands. Maybe something like that. Definitely not going to be anything super strong. What about this player? This player is limp behind the limper. Limp with previous limpers 50% of the time. 1 out of 1 in the small blind, 0 of 1 in mid position. So this is basically like his first time being in the cutoff. And here he could have isolated, he could have raised. So again, I think he's going to be kind of pretty weak. I'm actually going to go back and say that he might have these two gappers, maybe something like this, maybe some suited kings. Maybe some of these offsuit connectors. And this is probably going to be about the same range as this other player. Because again, he's in position. He could be raising to try to isolate, yet he didn't. He chose just to limp behind it instead of raising. Kind of tempted to think that maybe he has ace-x offsuits. So limp and called to raise. Yeah, I mean nines. He's got those low pocket pairs: ace 9 suited, ace 7 suited. Oh, he's got ace queen, king queen off, and queen 7 off. So maybe he has those in his range. This player's probably not gonna have much. So we'll do something like that. And now it's on us. Two limpers. We have position. Neither of them are demonstrating strength. I think if we're going to raise, we're going to probably have to we're going to be raising a little bit larger because again, if we pick up the pot, hey, that's great. That's 3.5 big blinds that we take down. So I would definitely be raising here up to at least 5 big blinds. I could probably go 6 or 7. This player looks to be the loosest, but he's got 36 hands. This player's definitely tight. So I think 5 big blinds. If he has a hand, he'll call. If he doesn't, he'll just fold. This player's a bit of an unknown. So what do? I raise the 5 big blinds. I think that's appropriate. Both of those two fold. This villain folds, and we get villain 7 to call. Now his limp and call to raise is 100% so far. So I'm going to assume that once he limps, he calls. So we have villain's range, 22.6%, 300 combos. We're going to be at 31.2 and 414 combos because we've been doing this so frequently. And now we have Queen of Hearts, 10 of Hearts, and 7 of Spades. So, versus this villain, you can see the breakdown. Top pair plus, flush draw, open-ended straight draw. We're looking at 35.3%. If we add middle pair plus, gut shots, and these combo draws, jumps up to 62%. If he limped, he's probably calling with all of these. So he would check. I think he would check, and then if I bet, he would probably call with all of those. He may call his pocket pair below the second card, so eights and nines, because that also kind of gives him, some of the gut shots. So I'll do eights and nines there. Bottom pair, probably not. Most players probably don't do that. So I think that would be his calling range. So what does he do? He actually checks, so no big surprise, checks 100% of his hands, and now it's on us. What do we do? I think this is going to be a board that's going to get a lot of calls. So I don't think we're going to be betting just a bet. I think we're going to be betting, expecting some calls from some weaker hands, and some drawing type of hands. So we're going to have a mix of value hands, mix of semi bluffs here. So let's start with our value hands. I do think we're going to be betting top pair plus. I think we can even bet two pairs and sets. Even with queen 10, yeah, we've got top two pair covered, but if you think about it, 8-9 could call, 9-jack could call, king-jack could call, any of two hearts can call. So I think we're going to be betting quite a bit for value, and hoping that we get a decent card on the turn. For our value bets, I think we're going to be doing flush, open into straight draws. Are all gut shots going to be the same? No, I don't think so, but I think we can say all gut shots. Flush draw plus pairs. Yeah, I think we're gonna probably call flush draw with gut shots, flush draw, gut shots. Probably. So I think we're 16 versus 20 at 25. I think we're gonna need something a little bit more, just as our bluffs, and it could possibly be the middle pair. Just kind of as a bluff. That kind of gets us a little more. So 17% value. And I'm not going to say all of these are value. All of these are bluffs. Some of them is, I think, value, because I think we can get called by 8s, 9s. We're going to get called probably by jacks. He probably doesn't have jacks, but 8s, 9s probably get called. And then they'll probably fold on, unfavorable cards. So it's kind of like mix of value, mix of bluff, but if anything, probably more bluffs. So I think that's going to be my betting range. And then oops. Let's fix this. This is this player. He's calling. I'm looking at top pair plus. Flush draw. Gut shots. Yeah, 16, 22. This flush draw and overcard ace king. That's going to be part of our flush draws. So we're at 7. Yeah, we're at 17 and 22%. So I think the same thing. Jacks, I do think we're going to be betting. I think jacks will likely be more value oriented. And then our middle pair and probably these 8s and 9s are going to be more value, or not value, more bluffing. Bottom pair, I don't think we're going to see. This will be strictly bluffs, and I think we're going to be betting them as kind of like a combo where we have 7-6, 7-8, 9-7, A7, King 7. So if we add that, that kind of gets us closer to that 2-to-1, 2 bluffs for every 1 value. And it gets us to 58.1. So I kind of think that that's a decent breakdown. And I should be betting here probably about 6, because I think even if we go a scale up, he's still going to be calling with a lot. If we did his breakdown of value versus drawing hands, you can see that he's probably going to be calling with a little bit more value. If we think about the pairs plus is not big, I should say. He's going to have more value than bluffs if we include these hands as more value. So what do? I bet half pot, which I think I'm okay with. And then he raises, and he min raises. So what hands is he going to check and min raise with? That's curious. So I don't think a top pair hand's going to check raise. I don't think any of those are going to check raise. I think two pair can check raise, set, and straights can check raise. Is there any flush draws that could check raise? Maybe if he check raises the eights. But do I see most people check raising those? I don't think so. I think the check raising for these hands are going to come with Jack 9, so flush and the straight draw. 8, 9. Maybe 8, 6. I think that's it. I think those are going to be the only flush draws. So I think what we're doing is check raising. Pretty tight range. Would he check raise just straight up open-ended straight draws? I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a peculiar amount, and that's kind of why I almost feel like if he did his straight draw, let's change these to green. Why wouldn't he do it bigger? So it almost seems like he has something big. He could have sets, two pairs, sets and two pair. So if that's his range, I'm going to say that is his check raising range here. Oops, we forgot to do these. So their range equity was 54.2, and our range equity is 55.8. All right, so if we bet, and now he check raised, what do we call with? And I think we're going to have to be calling where we get some pretty decent equity, because I do think his hand's going to be much bigger on these values, two pairs and sets. So how do we fare against two pairs and sets? I don't think we're going to be calling with many of these gut shots at all. I don't think any of those gut shots. Let's check. I don't think any of these pairs are going to be. I don't even think top pair. I think top pair, the only time we would call a top pair is if we have some sort of other combo draw. But since the queen of hearts is out, it's not like we can have ace queen, king queen of hearts, queen jack of hearts. So I think we're looking at do all of our flush draws, see what that looks like. So we're at 40%. We obviously have the odds to call. I think we could probably fold an overpair, and that gives us two pair sets. If we have more sets than he does, we don't have the straights. So let's just sets and two pairs definitely going to be one thing that we call. So let's start with our flush draws. If we call a flush draw, we only have 41.8% equity because we'll have to hit. We could probably call the flush draws. What about open-ended straight draws? We're at 35%. I think we can also call with those, and then our sets and two pairs. So in our calls, we're going to have a few more draws, and I'm not even sure if we need to do all flush draws. So if we take out the kings, king 7, no, I don't think so. We'll have king jack in there for a straight flush draw. We'll have jack 9 in there. We'll have 9-8 in there. we'll do 8-6 and then the aces. So that kind of improves our stature. So I think this is going to be my calling range here. So let's do that. That's our calling range. We are calling with 12.6% of my range. I have 47 combos right now. This player only has 15 combos because that represents 5.95% of their range. So I did call, and then the 8 of spades comes out. 8 of spades. My range equity is 37.8. His is 62.2. All right, so what is he going to do? So right now, we think he has straights, sets, could have a straight, could have a set, could have 2 pair. He checks, and I think that's kind of interesting. Cautious player, and he's definitely passive. I think is going to be checking 2 pairs and sets because they're going to be afraid that I have it. I don't think he's going to be checking the straight. I think that he would bet to try to protect, but definitely 2 pair sets. Now it's going to freeze because he's going to see monsters under the bread. He'll think that I have 9-6, which why would I have 9-6 in my range? Or he'll think that I have 9-jack and just now hit my straight. What about his flush draws? I think he could also check his flush draws. I think the exception could be that Jack 9. I think he could be betting that. Queen 10. Yeah, he would check 9-8. Would check 8-6. Would check. Let's make sure we get those. Yeah, open end and straight draw would check. Got shot checks. Got flush draws there. Right, I took out Jack 9. Yep, took out those flush. So I think we got everything there. And weak pair, definitely check. So we'll say weak pairs check. I think that covers it. So I think the straight bets, and that would be basically Jack 9 of hearts. So he's checking 93% of the time, and now it's on me. And the question is, if I bet, what hands are going to fold? I honestly don't think anything's going to fold, so I don't think there's any reason for me to bet. I think if I bet, he's just going to say, well, you obviously must have the Jack 9. The only way he's going to fold is if I just shove all in here. I think that would be the only possibility that he could fold, and he would do it begrudgingly, unless he had Jack 9. So if he had exactly Jack 9, which I don't think he does, so I almost think now this is kind of sets up a pretty good bluff. Pretty good bluff. I mean, we continuation bet and then we called, suggesting that we have a hand. Possibly he calls with a set. So this is 21% of the hands that 21% of the time he's gonna call. 2 pair, I think, can just fold. So what can we look at here? So I could do 100% of my bet, and then he only calls 21% of the time. He's folding 79%. That's auto profit. What do I do here? I actually checked. And the question is, why would I check? He check raised me, and then he checked into me. Is that a sign of a big hand? I think it's a sign of somebody that made a play with a hand and then got scared. So at this point, I should have bet my straight. I think I should have bet my set. I should have bet my 2-pair. And that leaves weak pair, no made hand, and all of my draws. But I kind of feel like I should be betting these flush draws, opening the straight draws, gut shots, overcards. I almost feel like I should be betting all of those. So those are all weak. Let's change these. So red would have been value, green would be bluffs. Yeah, I kind of think that I'm okay with checking weak pair, no made hands, because he obviously has something. And these represent, geez, 50%. Oh, that's 100% of my range right there. But then I checked. Yeah, I think without a doubt, I made a mistake here. I should have bet. I should have bet 100% of my range here on the turn. And I think, how much do I bet? I think I'm going to be betting at least pot. But I think 64.4% or 64. So we're going to say it. If I bet 64, if I put him all in, I think he calls. He already checked. I think he calls 21.43. Say 21. So 79% of the time, I win 37.20. And then the other 21%, he calls me. And he calls me with the set. And I win. Let's move this over. 36%. So 0.365. I win. What's in the pot? 37.2 plus another 64.4 minus the other percent, which is 63.5. When I lose my 64.4. That's a profit of 28. I think that should have been my play. I think that should have been my play right then and there. So what happened? So we already set up what we thought he was going to be doing. We took out Jack 9, open-ended straight draw, gut shots. That's his checking range, and then we checked. So here, I kind of think we're going to have just basically all of our draws. So we'll just go with this. We're checking our draws here. That is 71.7. That gives us 33 combos. This is their range. That's 93.3. He has 14 combos. River cards, 2 of spades. My equity is 20. Oops. 2. Let's get 2 of spades. My equity is 11.4. His equity is 88.6. And he bets 8. He bets a small amount, so less than a quarter of the pot. What is he going to bet less than a quarter of the pot with? I do think he is probably going to bet anything 2 pair plus, guaranteed, and actually probably a set plus. Maybe only just a flush. Weak pair, I think he's just going to check and hope to take it down. And against that range, I mean, do I have anything? I think the only thing I could call with is going to be that flush. And even then, you can see that, yeah, flush is going to take it. Can I call with a straight? Yeah, flush straight's going to take it. Do I have a sets 2 pair? None of that. So straights and flushes are about the only thing that I can call with. Did I call? Yeah, I called. We know we had ace 8. I don't know why I called. I really shouldn't have. I think I called because the bet was so small, but in reality, I think this guy's got a big hand. I think he's going to be having something like this, sets plus probably. I called. He shows ace queen, which is not a set plus. It's actually top pair. So I missed this hand. Where did we go wrong? Check raise. Check raise it. Would he have check raised everything? Maybe. I assume that he wouldn't have check raised top pair because of how passive he is. He folds to c bets a lot. I guess I had been c betting 3 out of 3, but that's a little surprising. So did I say check raise here? Yeah, I did check raise flop c bet with top pair top kicker, but did not check raise with bottom trips on a dry board. I thought that was a peculiar size. Now, here's our question. If he checks, could we get a fold out of him? So if he had the top pair, if I shoved him all in, could we get him to fold top pair? If he folds top pair and only continues, yeah, all of the flush draws, all of the open-ended straight draws. If he only calls 40%, let's try this again. So he said 40%, so 60% of the time I win 54.8. Then the other 40% he calls, and 72% of the time, or 20. Yep, I'm doing that. So 0.27. I win 64.4 plus the 54.8. Whoops. Darn it. Let's go back here. So we got 0.6. 0.6 times 37.2 plus 0.4 he calls, and the times he calls I win 27. I win 64.4 plus 37.2, and then the other times is 63. 72, 73. 73, I lose my 64.4. 14. What if he calls with top pair too? Now he's calling 100% of the time and it comes down to 30-60. That, I think, is a losing bet. So would he give up top pair or not? Maybe. Really, the only way to know is to make that play. So anyways, this was a long hand, a lot of things to talk about. I got check raise on here. You haven't seen many of those. Normally, check raises are big hands. I think it was strange that he checked the turn, but for a passive player, I think that kind of they'll get spooked by that 8. So, you could still have 2 pair or you could have trips. All right, if you like this hand, look tomorrow for another one.